Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about boundaries. And we're just going to talk about boundaries. So I feel like I'm trying to find a balance with my communication style. While very much that I like to teach, I think it's also important to showcase that I am also very much a person. Not to say that people don't think I'm a person, but I think it's important to talk about my own experiences, my own lessons in it because it becomes more relatable. And I also am not above my own experiences. Like I'm not all knowing. I had So let's talk about boundaries. If you are someone, well, boundaries are important for everyone. And it is extremely important if you identify as someone who is sensitive, if you identify yourself as an empath. I feel like it's important to say that if you identify yourself as an empath, that I encourage you to start identifying yourself as someone who's intuitive. Um, it feels like when you start accepting that word or you start identifying that, you allow yourself to be more open to other things that come your way. But going back to boundaries, let's talk about how, as someone who is sensitive and intuitive, in the beginning stages of learning about what I was filtering in, the information that I was receiving, there were plenty of times that I just had very poor boundaries. And it wasn't anything that I was actively doing, it just happened. And how do I explain that? So let's say that there was someone who I kept running into, and there was a point in time that I thought that I had, like, as someone who was very open, sometimes I would be open to everyone. And there were certain people that might come in my line of sight where I just start getting information about. And I felt like because I was receiving the information, I had to, you can use the word help them, or I had to deliver the message, or I had to do something with it. And there were times that I've learned lessons in that is that, my boundaries were not, I didn't have good boundaries. I was just open and I didn't know what my boundaries were. It was a very rough learning experience and having to put myself out there. And there became a time where some people's energy was way too much for me. And then I had to actually go through the thought process of, okay, I'm receiving this information. This person is kind of a lot to deal with. Their energy is just very kind of, it's a lot. You can use the word messy, you could use the word chaotic, you can use the word not balanced, not grounded. Um, and I there were times when I would go and communicate with this person that I would just be depleted. I would be drained and it wasn't worth it. And there would be times where I might receive information about someone and I'm looking at them and I'm like, yo, this person is not receptive to me. They are not receptive to my energy. And I think it would be sometimes in part that they are not listening to their own messages from their guides. So sometimes I would feel like their guides would be coming to me to be like, hey, you can hear me. You can, they're not listening to us. So maybe you can go in their face and deliver it. And I feel like sometimes these people would not be open to me because they would just, some underlying thing would be like, yo, I don't want to hear it, not interested, ignorance is bliss, whatever. And that is fine. Like, um, But going back to boundaries, like there would be times where I'd be like, yo, these are my boundaries. This person is not receptive to me. Why am I going to go put myself in a situation where this person now can be like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to hear these messages. And I would have to figure out what my boundaries were. I'm not going to put myself in that situation. And also, you guys need to get out of my ear and stop telling me, to go talk to them, especially if they're not open to me. Um, and then there would be times where I would have to figure out what are my boundaries. Just because I'm open doesn't mean that I have to feel everything. And that was a very big learning experience. Um, and I'm sharing this information because as you begin to receive information, as you begin to figure out what your boundaries are, I want you to see um, how important it is. And even by using my own experience as an example, you can figure out, what you can take from it and what you don't, and maybe figure out, how you can apply this shit in real life. So, boundaries, figuring out, not wanting to receive messages, especially if they're not open to me, and also figuring out how do I say this? I was kind of given an example that I thought was a very interesting thing. So sometimes when I'm communicating or when spirits are communicating with me, it feels like I'm getting puzzle pieces. And there would be times where I'm taking these puzzle pieces and I'm trying to, put them together and figure it out. And there are times where I don't have to do that. Like, if you are going to give me puzzle pieces, I can take these puzzle pieces and just give these puzzle pieces to the person that it's intended to and allow them to see how it fits for them. I don't have to try and decipher it. And I think there would be times where I'm sitting there like, what does this mean? And I'm trying to decipher it. And it's not, it is not my business and or information for me to decipher because it is not, the messages aren't for me. I'm just meant to deliver what I'm supposed to deliver. And that is a huge thing. And if you identify yourself as an empath, you're going to get a bunch of different information and you have to figure out, what it is for you. Like, you don't have to feel it all, and you have to identify what your boundaries are and what you are willing and not willing to accept. And how do we, even if you're someone who doesn't identify as like a sensitive person, it's boundaries with everyday people. Some people have just really chaotic energy, and sometimes that can be, they can be family members. I think a lot of people have a type of, dysfunctional family, and dysfunctional can look very different for in a lot of different ways. And sometimes as children, even though we get older, we still have elders in the family who still view us as children and may still treat us that way. And at a certain point, it's what are your boundaries? Like, you don't need to talk to me that way, but how do you communicate that? When you go to work, and you have coworkers, colleagues, supervisors or subordinates, you're constantly reading energy, how their day is going. You can see when certain things are high stress situations, how are they responding? Are they dealing with their responses in a healthy manner, or are they taking it out? Boundaries. What do you want to do with it? What are you willing to accept? What are you not willing to accept? Um, Back to being intuitive as far as boundaries go. It's a lot. It's a lot of learning experiences, and the unfortunate thing is that you keep reliving these learning experiences until you finally learn the lesson. So that way when the lesson comes up again, you can be like, Not doing that again. So think about boundaries, think about how you apply them in your everyday life. I want you to start figuring out how you apply them when you start receiving energy, when you start feeling energy, and when you're able to identify what energy is not yours to deal with. I feel like it's also important to bring up a good example of when someone's just had a rough day and they just take it out, and you see them. You might be getting a projection of that energy and it's not yours. You don't have to absorb it and feel it as your own. You can always look at that and be like, yo, your shit is really not in a good place today. So I'm going to allow you to keep that, and we can come back another day and try this again. But this is not for me to feel. This is not for me to deal with. Yeah, boundaries. So, yeah, I feel like I could go on about lessons and boundaries like about shit that happens every single day. Um, but as far as being intuitive, it's just important to figure out what your boundaries are, what you want to feel, what you don't. Also, boundaries you have with yourself. That is a very important aspect. When you feel things that are coming your way, you have a choice. You can either choose to, accept what is coming your way and bear that burden, or you can say, no, I'm not going to. And, but you have to figure out for yourself where that line is. And you have to be the one to enforce those boundaries, even for yourself, where I can feel this person's energy. I feel like, there's something for me to observe, take in. But if you're not in the mood or you're not in the space, you can easily say, like, yo, you guys need to get out of my ear. Now is not the time. I am not open for business. You know, um, Not interested. And, but again, you have to be the one to hold that boundaries for yourself. So I hope this wasn't ramble jumbled. I hope it made sense. And yeah, boundaries to be continued. Have a good day. Bye.